great day on this platform because all my shit's breaking, which is awesome. Anyway, so I'm just going to get this one over with because I'm having major problems with my computer. So forget the fucking all the issues that I'm having. And if you're probably not watching this, as most people don't, when I live stream it, I'll fix it in post. But I wanted to get this off my chest because it's important to talk about the chaos that these Republicans are bringing to the table. It's nonstop gaslighting. What I was hoping to do is bring up a couple news articles that I had. But as you can see, I'm in technical hell and things are breaking on me. Who knows if it's the fucking Russians, right? Let's just go conspiracy theory. But my frustration right now with the political climate is that these Republicans are utilizing the ability to segment the population. They're dividing us, and it's by design. If you go to Senator Kennedy from Louisiana Congress had a congressional meeting where they had Arab Americans talking about the hate that's going on. And in the line of questioning, he told this Arab American woman to put her head in a bag and then accused her of supporting terrorists because she clearly defined that she doesn't support any kind of violence. She doesn't support Hezbollah. She doesn't support Hamas. But everything that Donald Trump's talking about is now filtering into the government. It's filtering into official duties of our senators and our congresspeople, where they have and feel the bravado to question people's patriotism and question whether or not an Arab American supports terrorism. And you may be watching this saying, well, whatever, what the fuck? Well, what I can tell you is, as a black person, as a half black, half white American, when people start having this rhetoric, it falls on all of us. I can remember when the Boston bomber took the backpack and laid the bomb down and people got hurt. And I remember standing on the platform in my hometown on Amtrak, and I had a backpack on, and a woman came I never met her. She came to me and said I looked suspicious, and she wanted to, she literally was asking me what was in my bag, and I was like, I don't know you. And she was like, well, you look suspicious. And of course, I always kind of dress like a bum because I don't give a fuck. But that kind of rhetoric filters into everyone's life that's of color, and people start to pick and choose who they trust and who they don't. And it's because of these words that our folks, these leaders, are using. And so what's so crazy right now is it's one thing to have it happening on the campaign trail. It's a whole nother thing to watch Senator Kennedy put that rhetoric into use in a congressional meeting. I don't know why that word's slipping my mind. Probably because I'm a little stressed with my fucking technical challenges. But the truth is that these words matter. And what is really crazy about the GOP is they'll say these things and then they'll say, well, that's not what I meant, or we have to have an interpreter understand it. But they're talking a specific language, and it's called dog whistling because the dogs hear it and not the normal folks or the humans. These people that hear this racist dog whistling, they know what to do. They take orders from these folks. It's so bad that there is no critical thinking that happens between one of these Congress people and somebody on the street. And if one of their followers on the street hears Donald Trump say something, they don't do any sifting or filtering. They just repeat it, and it becomes fact to them. That's a lot of power you have when you're a person that's front and center in front of the media and everyone's got their eyes on you. But there's responsibility that comes with it, and they don't have the ability to understand that for some reason. Today, JD Vance got on the news, or he was doing a convention or a speech somewhere, and he laid into Democrats about their rhetoric about how this is causing people to want to kill Donald Trump because we say he's a threat to democracy and because we say that his rhetoric is dangerous. JD Vance made the statement or the declaration that the Democrats are to blame for this. And then lo and behold, both shooters were Republican. That falls on deaf ears. So what you have is major gaslighting by this party. And he knows when he's talking to that group of people that they're going to buy into it, and they're probably not going to go anywhere else but Newsmax. Newsmax isn't going to give the whole picture. And so we have this circular firing squad that's happening right now. And if you're trying to watch and figure out what's happening, of course, it's not a bad thing to watch Donald Trump crumble. But when a narcissist like that has their collapse, they take everyone down with them. And so what he's doing right now is trying to create as much turmoil as he can and trying to divide us. And people say, well, the Democrats, this. Listen to the way you're talking online about Democrats, and listen to the way Kamala Harris talked about Trump's assassination. Listen to the way Donald Trump talks about the assassination. Listen to how Elon Musk, who, Christ almighty, the fucking immigrant, let's export him first, how he puts out tweets and then deletes them, and he accuses everybody of not getting the joke when he suggests that why isn't anybody attacking Kamala Harris or Joe Biden? And he makes it very explicit that, something should be done. There's almost an inherent kind of suggestion by the way he posts it. And he's got 200 million people following him. And so the chaos right now that's coming from the right is that the Democrats are to blame for all this violence. But you look in Springfield, and these folks have had to shut down their schools now, probably for 4 or 5 days. You've got Proud Boys, which is basically the modern KKK, except they've called themselves Proud Boys, like a bunch of fucking incels. What an incel is, by the way, it's somebody who lives in the basement and probably never seen a vagina. And so these people are angry and they take it out on the rest of the world. Whether maybe their mom didn't love them enough, maybe their dad didn't love them enough. Instead of going to therapy or doing what I did and maybe drinking yourself away and certainly self-destructing in some ways, they decide to put their onus on everyone else. And I'm not suggesting my parents didn't love me, by the way. I'm just saying that the way people handle trauma is different. And these Proud Boys are folks that handle trauma by picking others and looking for fights and then saying, hey, that person's the source of my problems. The frustrating thing for most of us that are sane right now is hearing this double talk and watching people that don't know any better, apparently, repeat it as if it's fact. And then they link to things that suggest it's fact by linking to videos of JD Vance saying it, or linking to a blog post or a YouTube by some crazy motherfucker that actually can get online and not have technical difficulties. It's mind-numbing and it's very frustrating. And so today I didn't really have anything to talk about. Honestly, I wanted to just kind of vent, because as I'm sifting through what's happening, it's hard to figure out. Let me just read off some headlines. You're allowed to call Trump a threat to democracy. And this is a website that it's a whole blog talking about how JD Vance wrings his hand, almost the Pontius Pilate move, where he says, hey guys, you got to stop it. I promise I'll stop, but it's Democrats. And the reason why I know it's Democrats is because no one tried to kill Kamala Harris. Almost soft suggesting somebody should to equalize it. It's fucking bizarre. You've got a Georgia woman has died after an abortion ban delayed life-saving care. So while they're mixing it up and trying to confuse everybody, real people are dying. And you're probably like, well, I'm pro-life and I don't want women to die. That's fucking bullshit. If you're pro-life, then you should be pro-women's health care. And therefore, you would be voting to make sure that women get the proper reproductive health care. And it's a choice and it's their body. But you're not pro-life. You're pro pushing your fucking stupid moral compass on us, which is based on a historical and legendary script that was written by people way back in the day when they had nothing else to do but come up with these things and try to essentially create a model for control. It was revamped by the Pope, King James, to be more controlling, of course. But this is the text that they're using to impose these deaths on people while simultaneously calling themselves pro-fucking life. It makes no sense. And as soon as somebody says pro-life, I know immediately that they're bringing that from a religious background, or they've seen maybe a video of a fetus and they think that they're somehow heroing this shit. But when you hero against women's health care, you're fucking people. And this woman in Georgia died from it. And, this is the result of macro policy. When you say, hey, look, we're going to swap, put a clean blanket policy that's going to deter people or prevent people from getting the health care. What do you think is going to happen? Imagine if you said, all right, we're going to ban cancer treatments. People would lose their shit. Imagine if they said they're going to ban IVF. Whoa, you know what? They've actually done that today. They've actually reinforced the fact that they want to ban IVF because they feel like when that embryo and that sperm is in the lab, as soon as they touch its life, therefore it's a human, it has rights, and how dare you? And so these people have gone way off the deep end. Trump simultaneously says he's for it and against it, depending on who you're talking to. And so we're left wondering what the fuck's going on. And the supporters don't care because it's become our team versus their team. It's not become about what's best for America. It's become almost as if they've taken on the narcissistic personality, the malignant side of it, and decided that their team has to win at all costs, even if we have to storm the Capitol. While Democrats, and I remember when Trump won, they had all this, hey, liberal tears, and they were really like jerking themselves off about the fact that people were really upset, people were crying, knowing that Trump was going to bring death and destruction, which he did. 1 million people died that didn't have to because he did the same rhetoric with COVID. The man wants to see the collapse. He knows he's going to be off this planet soon, so he has no skin in the game. He doesn't give a fuck about his kids. He doesn't give a fuck about Barron. He doesn't give a fuck about anybody but himself. Now, I'm not suggesting that he hasn't been successful doing some things and accruing wealth at the cost of other people, at the exploitation of other people, which some people hold in high regard. I don't give a fuck about Elon Musk's money. I don't give a fuck about inheritance. I don't give a fuck about generational wealth. I don't give a fuck about any of that stuff. And I can tell you right now that I've made that statement known to any possible generational wealth that might be coming my way. I don't really care about that fucking shit. What's the point of getting money from somebody when they die? It makes no sense to me. And I if I could opt out, I would. If you know anything about that situation, I don't have a disdain for my family. I just have a disdain for this kind of umbrella that's held over you as if you've got to comply with things because of a certain thing. And it's like, me, I don't need that thing. To me, generational wealth is essentially saying, hey, look, because I worked hard and I got lucky, that means the rest of my people don't have to. And it's bizarre. I think you tax the fuck out of people when they die and you make sure their bills are paid and then get it back in the system. What the fuck are they going to do with it if they haven't utilized it while they're alive? Certainly not utilizing when they're dead. I mean, it just makes no sense. Again, this is pretty far off the map from what I want to talk about, but it's important because there are people that hold these people in high esteem, and Trump inherited a ton of money. He didn't earn it. It's not like he came up with anything. In fact, if his brother hadn't died of alcoholism and his dad hadn't been a complete asshole just like Trump, it wouldn't be Trump at all. It'd be Fred that was the patriarch and the scion that carries on. And so this notion that these people should be held in regard and they should be listened to because they have wealth, because he's a businessman that exploited people, makes no sense to me. So take away that. What is Trump? Let's say he's not a successful businessman. Could he walk around grabbing people in the pussy, doing all that shit? Of course not. Could Elon Musk, if he had nothing, be able to post tweets and then delete them about murdering the president of the United States? You couldn't have it. They have nothing. There's no essence to them other than what they've inherited and and by the way, Elon Musk inherited money as well. He's not stupid, but when people say he's a genius, for Christ's sake, he's not even close to being somebody I would hire as a software engineer. I'd probably rather hire a junior software engineer over him just because they're trainable and they would listen. He's the guy that comes in and just says, hey, I got this idea, or probably took it from somebody else while I was chatting somebody. Very good at mimicking. There's nothing there. There's no substance. But people follow these folks because for some reason we've created this society that says, hey, look, you have a lot of money. You must know a lot about everything. No, they knew a lot about this particular thing. They understand the system. They understand how to exploit it. Good for them. They won. They get a prize. They won capitalism. But certainly putting them and hoisting them into the most powerful position in the world when they haven't done the work on themselves, they have no introspection, they don't care about other people, makes no sense. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are in the same boat to me. They're both narcissists. They both have no ability to feel. Elon Musk, you could probably blame on some kind of Asperger's or whatever. Donald Trump's just just stupid. And I don't want to use the word retard because that would be too kind. And again, that's not really kosher right now to say that. But my frustration has been that these followers repeat everything they say. They gaslight, they change their tune. It's not flip-flopping. And then we have to walk around with our friends and neighbors saying these things and then suggesting that it's okay to vote for Donald Trump. It's mind-blowing and bizarre. I know I've had several conversations with people about this issue and how frustrating it is, but you really can't put your finger on it unless you probably make a sports analogy where you've got a coach who's, I don't know, let's try this. 3rd and 5 on the fucking 10-yard line or something. Let's just see if I can put a sports analogy together of a sport I don't watch. And, they keep on, that the other team has pass defense and they keep on trying to throw a pass when they've got everybody prepared for a pass. And so the coach just continues to do this. He says, it's going to work this next time. I promise it's going to work. And he keeps on doing it and doing it. And you say, you know what? I don't fucking care if it's not working. It's my team. How dare you say it doesn't work? And then you get all offended because your team is running the ball or passing the ball into the ground. I should have used running. Damn it, I flipped that out. Look, I'm not a sports guy, so I think I needed to be 3rd and 5 on the 3, right? Probably to make sense. Whatever. The point is that it becomes my team versus your team, and there's no real substance or conversation happening about the quality of the game or the quality of the policy. It becomes this yelling match about Trump and versus Kamala. And I truly didn't want to post or re-platform the shit that they're saying because you can go and find it. I'm not here to, tell you. I don't want to become a portal where you get your information. I rather prefer to be a commentary on the craziness, on the zeitgeist of the time, and document my feelings of what the fuck's going on, because they're going to look back at this time, especially if Trump wins. They're going to look back on this time and say, how the fuck did it happen? Just like we do. I hate to pull Godwin's law here, but just like we do with Hitler, we say, how could it have happened? It's very easy to see how it could happen right now. If you're looking to Hitler to say, hey, Hitler, you have the solution for all our problems, and people say, hey, he's bussing people down there and throwing them in gas furnaces, you probably first of all, no, I don't believe it, because you turned on the news or you got to turn on the radio and Hitler says, that's absolutely not true. These are German Americans just like you. And you say, well, it can't be happening. And so you don't do any critical thinking, even though you're looking, you're seeing pictures, you're hearing whispers. You just ignore it because that's your team. And so right now, the only thing that the GOP has is they're speaking to their team the entire time. I'm hoping, my hope is that through all this chaos, that the independents and those folks that somehow are still uncertain about the way they're going to vote get off their ass and say, holy shit, this is crazy. And they start to see the side effects of this rhetoric. A lot of people don't pay attention every day, and I don't think people should. I would love for politics to be boring again. I might sound more exciting if it's boring. I can't compete with Donald Trump. I can't compete with that. He's going to suck out all the oxygen in the room, as I said many, many times in this podcast. So the frustration is that I'd love to get to a point where we're talking about real things, but you spend a lot of time defending real basic things like whether somebody said it or how you interpret what Trump said. And of course, anytime Trump says something, you have to go find a Trump interpreter in order to define and really understand it, because you may have heard, hey, I shot somebody and they're dead, but Trump interpreters here, he's holding their neck and saving them from life injuring from a life injury or something to that effect. I mean, they really spin it. It comes back to a couple days ago, one of my best podcasts. You may not like it, but as far as content, I felt like it was my best. One of my best was talking about cognitive bias. So right now, the GOP's plan is to create as much chaos as possible. They want to essentially utilize your cognitive bias and your cognitive dissonance, which is your emotional side of whether or not you're going to absorb some information. They want to use that against you. And it's working certainly on me to make me go, fuck this platform. I can't even have dialogue here. I can't even support local businesses because every single feed is either, some kind of rage content, or I've got comments or people in my inbox suggesting that I'm an incel as well. So what's amazing about that, for whatever reason, a lot of people don't know, which I'm fine with. They think I'm single, and I'm not saying that for my wife, but it prevents them from attacking her. But I get a lot of people online that's saying, hey, you're an incel, you're living in your mom's basement and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, guys, it makes no sense. But if that's what you think I am, fine. But it's nonstop, especially when you're running a political kind of a political, when I do have a political agenda, which is to put information out there and make people think, and certainly share my own emotions about this crazy time that we're living in. I know for a fact that there will be historians looking back, and maybe they'll discover, after they go through all the troves of really, really popular and influential people, there'll be somebody that'll discover this and they'll say, hey, this guy was kind of on it a little bit. And maybe by that time I'll have 100 followers on YouTube. Who knows? I've got big dreams to get to 100, I promise. But I have to share this because it's so frustrating, and I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't understand how you can see something and not want more information, or how you have to stick to your team that bad. I don't follow sports, okay? My shitty ass sports analogy that I basically botched and corrupted. It's because I don't watch sports. I play sports. I was athletic when I was younger, but I don't give a fuck about that team and getting on an emotional roller coaster to vote for them. It doesn't make me special. It makes me weird in today's age. I mean, I don't have a team. People ask me what my team is. I like the Eagles, I guess, because everyone else around here likes the Eagles. But if I move to San Diego, I'll like the Chargers, I guess, or if that's still a team. You know what I mean? I don't care. I like when people are happy when the team wins, but I don't give a fuck. So I have no skin in the game. Yesterday, the Eagles lost. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, folks. Locally, that sucks. I checked the scores because one of my friends who I play Magic with, I know whether or not he's going to be in a good mood, whether or not the Eagles win. And he's probably going to be pissy tomorrow because the Eagles lost. So that's the reason I check the scores. But I don't have any other skin in the game. And so when somebody wins or loses, it's almost like, all right, if I was going to, if someone said, Nate, I'm going to pay you to have skin in the game, I would do raw analysis and say, okay, let's see who's the best team here. Let's look at the data. Give me the stats. I want stat players. I want to know what their situational awareness is. All that stuff I would get into, and then I would be able to analyze it and say, okay, this is a good team. This is a bad team. I don't have that interest in sports, but that's the level of attention you have to have in politics. It can't be just my team and your team. You can say, hey, Nate, you're sitting there, you're liberal, you're progressive. That's because those are the ideas that are presented that make the most sense and that are backed by data. The Republicans haven't come up with any policies that have any data to back it up other than their religious affiliation or serving their donors, which most likely isn't you. And most likely it's to put money in their pockets or protect what they own for whatever reason. In my world that I would create, I would never allow rich people to have any interaction with the government other than a vote. You get a vote just like everyone else. Why would you get access to this politician? No, you're the same. The only thing that you have is you've somehow have accumulated more resources than everyone else. I think we need to look at that as opposed to doing and bending over backwards for you. That's not how our system works. Right now, our system is geared towards catering to those folks. And it's really frustrating that people don't get this. And you're lost. We're lost in the chaos. We're lost in the fake assassination attempts. And I say fake because no bullets were fired. And we have to focus on that. We have to do analysis on that. And then all we're doing when we're doing that is we're spending time on Trump. We're allowing him to take over the conversation, and we're not talking about real things. And it allows him to go to a crowd that likes him, which is the only crowd he's going to be in front of, and say the things that they want to hear, but yet have no real policy position on anything. So it's been extremely frustrating. It's why I had to pull back off Meta. I don't even want to stream there. I don't care how chaotic or shitty tonight's stream is. It may go to the dumpster bin after I'm done. But today was the first time where I flipped all the switches off for those platforms, and I'm not turning back. And there's a lot of work I need to do to get this to be YouTube friendly, of course, and YouTube quality. But in the meantime, I'm gonna take a personal stance and walk away from my reach, walk away from all that shit, because it's just not contributing anything to the conversation other than getting lost in the mix. And I'm not suggesting that I'm in the mix now or out front and center, but I feel much more detached from the turmoil on YouTube for whatever reason, probably because it doesn't have the social aspects. I expect the comments to be nasty, and I'm not going to block them on YouTube, but it's become kind of a grindy thing every day for me to open my phone and look at the political situation and then watch these folks do this dance. And then in the same token, watch these people that follow them repeat this bullshit. You have to relate to that. And maybe you're not deep enough to see what's that going on. And I'm glad to hear that. And maybe you have a better filter than me. And maybe you're not as sensitive as me, which is totally fine. All those are good things. But I have a real huge difficulty for several reasons. One of them is because I want the truth to be out there, and I would love for people to agree on what the best thing is, especially when the data shows that this is the best thing. We can't get there right now with this climate, and we don't have a party in the GOP that's rational. If you want to drive yourself crazy, you can look at all the statements that are on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube or Twitter from people in the GOP talking about immigration and talking about it as if these people are coming to invade us and they're a threat to you. They're not a threat to you. There's plenty of fucking space. There's plenty of room. They're not coming in here. They're not going and buying. I mean, if you're worried, you're making it easier for folks that you don't trust to buy guns. But these folks aren't coming over. Of course, there's isolated incidents of gang stuff, and there's always a bad apple. What the GOP does is they amplify that so that they can paint with a broad stroke over a huge demographic. It's what is destroying Springfield, Ohio right now, the home state of JD Vance, which is bizarre that a senator is trashing his home state and making it difficult for people to live in a city because he has a position that's so radical that suggests that Haitians are not welcome. By the way, if you dig into that story, these people were solicited. They were brought to Springfield because they wanted to work. They came in legally. They have papers. It's not an invasion. When you watch the Trump campaign, they talk about how these people just came and just popped up like flowers, or, you know, they were planted in the ground. They just popped up and showed up. And of course, then the troops come in. And when I say troops, I mean the little boys that play Army, the Proud Boys, the Proud Incels. They're there. So all this is happening while JD Vance is also saying, hey, enough. Democrats, enough. You're causing this rhetoric. You're the ones that's causing these Republicans to want to assassinate Donald Trump, which is bizarro land. Meanwhile, they're passing bills that don't protect IVF. They're passing legislation that forces women into precarious situations, even death, as I stated before, and we can't really get to it. So tonight's rant, again, while I'm having this technical difficulty, all I wanted to do tonight was kind of put the flag in the sand to say, enough fucking meta. You're fucked. You're done. I'm done with you. I'm not suggesting I'm not going to put my clips on there. I'm not suggesting I'm not going to use that tool as it should be, a marketing tool. And maybe at some point I'll even pay for it. But me personally putting my content there, I don't give a fuck about the fact that I have 5 views on a video. I don't give a fuck if I have 5 views for the next fucking 10 years. That place it has become a hellscape, and it's being taken over by right-wing wackos like Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, and all the other Russian propagandists that we have documentation that FSB, which is kind of like the CIA of Russia, paid and set up a company in Tennessee where they then could home grow their own propaganda under the guise of conservatism. True story. Major players on YouTube, major influencers, all of them have been found to be repeating the talking points of Russia. And if you're probably on the side of the fence that says, oh, Russia's not so bad, you're already lost to that propaganda game. So fuck off. It's frustrating, and that's hopefully what I'm able to articulate tonight, that I'm frustrated, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. I want to see this election over. There's a shit ton of work to do, though, and it doesn't mean that I'm just crawling in a hole. What I decided to do is pull my content, which, again, I call my art. They don't get my art anymore. Even when it looks shitty and I have a green screen behind me, they don't get it anymore from me. And I don't care how many validation points or likes I can get from them. I'm just not going to contribute to that conversation because there's no good conversations happening on Facebook, in my opinion. I know there's really good progressive influencers on there, and I'm not saying that Heather Cox Richardson isn't amazing. There's other folks. I really do love her. She's articulate. She's smart. Just always on point. And I love her content. I will still continue to consume that. And then the other thing I do is block. Because it's not because I'm trying to keep in my own bubble. It's trash conversation. It's lies. It's rage content. It's meant to stir up. It's meant for me to go, oh, I don't agree with that, and type it out and get fucking mad, which I do sometimes. And I'm calling Trump a boy, and I'm certainly articulating the fact that I have a penchant for fucking arguing online. I'm not going to lie. I definitely could be a professional troll, if you will, if I had to. But it also takes a toll when there's no real movement of the needle for folks that are so ingrained, and the chances of electing this person are dire. It's not that we have to eliminate Trump. It's just that we have to keep him out of the presidency, by the way, and keeping him where he needs to be, which is wearing his diapers on the golf course and, hanging out at Mar-a-Lago and talking about stories, how he traded secrets with Russia and nobody knows it, which is a true story. He did do that thing. But to see these two, and the grossest thing is to watch JD Vance transformation. He went from a never Trumper, to now repeating the exact verbatim stuff that Trump's saying and talking about how much he loves Trump and everything else, while his Indian wife probably is just losing her mind. I don't know how she reconciles having a husband that's running around talking this way about immigrants when you yourself are of Indian descent. And I don't understand how that dynamic works at home. Perhaps it's easier now because he's on the road and he's not at home, or if she's on the road with him, I don't know. But all of this kind of is wrapped under this umbrella of chaos. And it's traumatizing a lot of people. It's certainly affecting me. It's certainly not affected me like it's affecting the Haitian Americans that are in Springfield, or even people across this country that are immigrants, and the vitriol that gets sent their way. There's bomb threats, there's individual attacks. And this all comes from this designed campaign play, which is divide and conquer. Make sure you rile up people enough. If you watch my cognitive bias, I talk about backfire effect, which is when you present somebody with a truth that goes against their cognitive bias, they double down on it and they get fired up and they get emotional. And so you're watching it in real time, this play out by the Republicans as they try to get their base as emotionally stirred as possible. And some of them, again, his base is the gun owners, not saying liberals don't have guns, but his base are the gun owners, and some of them take this too far, and some of them get frustrated when he flip-flops and they come back at him. The one guy, Robert Routh or whatever his name was a Trump supporter, and then he got pissed off because Trump was kind of talking shit on Ukraine. I don't know what the other little boy's problem was, but all whiteness, all problems, all privilege, somehow their privilege was off kilter. And the first things these Republican privileged white folks do is they grab a gun. And I hate to use that kind of language, but I'm using it because those are facts. The facts are that we have 2 white shooters right now. Can you imagine the pain that we would feel if those folks were Haitians, and what we would be doing? And both sides would be talking about the problem of immigration if that were happening. But we're not talking about the problem with white males. We're not talking about that danger, even though the FBI said the largest threat to America is domestic white nationalism or terrorists. That's the largest threat internally. It's not Islam. It's not Muslims. It's not Hindus. It's not Christians from another land. It's not brown people. It's white males. That's the most threatening internal domestic terrorist on the FBI list that we have. And we can see it. We can see that from these last 2, I quote, assassination attempts. So as I don't want to continue to stir the pot and throw out rage content, I'm using language that represents facts. It's backed by data that the white terrorist is the scariest thing and the biggest threat to America. And it's the white male. I'm sorry if you're a white male. I understand. Trust me, as a black male, I understand what it feels like to hear language that says, oh, you're the problem. I'm not saying you're the problem, but the demographic is the problem. And they hear Trump. Trump speaks directly to their fears. JD Vance is on that train now too, while simultaneously living with an Indian at home. And they're doing this to create chaos. They're doing this to traumatize, and they're doing it to divide us. And in many cases, it actually makes people numb to it. I think there was an article that I read. I don't know if it was by my favorite Heather Cox Richardson or somebody else, but they were talking about the fact that we get numb to it. And so it's no longer crazy. Howard Dean lost his campaign run and was considered weird because he did and he had to quit because they thought that was too weird. That was it. Dan Quayle just about botched his because he couldn't spell potato right, something to that effect. And that was considered, he's an idiot. We're way beyond that, where we kind of just go, oh yeah, Trump did that, and we're still numb. I'm not fucking numb. I'm not going to be numb. I get weirded out every time I hear it. And I told you, when he was in office, every day I was like, what the hell is going on here? This doesn't make sense. It wasn't normal to me. It's why I started this thing and started yelling and screaming. How do we get past this? How do we do it? We've got to put our heads down and make sure he loses big time, bigly. And it has to be something that's so decisive that there's no chance in hell that anyone's going to even consider. Or if they do consider, it doesn't matter, because the margin is so huge that there's no coming back from it. It doesn't matter how many court cases you do, because he's going to litigate this for the rest of his life if he loses. But that's the only way to solve it. So we've got to grit it, to kind of squeeze our hands together, white knuckle it until we get there. We have to get out there and vote. I know it sounds cheesy, and I'm not trying to, I'm going to do a call to action to that. You got to fucking make sure you're registered. You got to make sure you're doing something. I got my Kamala shirt on today just to represent. You've got to continue to push the envelope. If you're sitting on the sidelines or you're hearing whispers of what's happening in the Trump campaign, you need to at least make sure you're registered to vote, and make sure all your friends and family are registered to vote, and vote against this person. Because not only is his language dangerous, but the man has no sense of anything of what reality is in any capacity. One of the best videos I watched today was a video, again, Australian press pressing the chief of staff of Homeland Security, I believe it was. And he went through and explained that when they were talking about doing something with the border, Trump presented them with this solution, the moat. He went into detail about how they should put snakes and alligators into it. And everyone in the room was incredulous. There was no joke to this. He wasn't saying, haha, I'm joking. He really believed this. And he even made the statement that says, well, if people fall in, it'll deter the next person. So he's looking for that first death. He's okay with some death as a side effect to deter people. And you may be thinking that's okay, but imagine your ass, which is an immigrant, descendant from an immigrant, most likely, coming over. And this is the kind of, you have to cross a moat with alligators and snakes. I mean, it's cartoonish, but this was the president of the United States who presented this. And again, it was Australian news that interviewed this person, because our news stays away from anything that is controversial, or they want to make sure they continue to maintain their access. And so that kind of story didn't get a lot of traction here. It was ABC Australia. But this is so not only is this person gaslighting us, not only does he have, it's hard to pin him down on policy, he's trained a protege in JD Vance, and JD Vance has dropped all his never Trump bullshit, and he's repeating the same things. But they also don't have any solutions for anything. Of course, he throws out there that we're going to not tax overtime. But if you look at Project 2025, they're talking about making it so there is no overtime. So no taxing it. You work 70 hours, you work 70 hours. There's no overtime. These are real things that they're presenting. They want to extend the Social Security age to 70. We have all these gains in healthcare that allow us to live longer, and they want to take that back into the market. Instead of saying, hey, wow, people are living to be 90, they want to try to take that time where your body's falling apart, and you probably don't have the motivation and the pizzazz or the virality of a youngster, And so they want to basically extend that. These are their policies. Their policies are to make sure that the workforce, which is a huge part of capital in the capitalist system, continues to be productive for longer and longer and longer. So if we had something that allowed us to live for 200 years, they would certainly make sure that the Social Security would extend. You say, well, Nate, well, how's it supposed to? Look, we have we have enough money on the earth, plenty of resources. It's all made up anyway to pay for everything that we want. Instead, they've treated us or trained us to repeat their bullshit. And anything that helps your fellow man or your fellow American or your fellow woman is considered socialism. It is mind-blowing because when you look at the data, of course, actuary science says public health care and putting everyone in the same pool makes sense. Mathematically, there's no way to break that down to say, oh, let's split everyone into groups. No, you spread everyone over the same pool. But they're not going to say that. They just want to say repeal in place. And because it's your team, you just go along with it. You think, oh, Obamacare, attach Obama to it. Of course, they had to remove Obamacare for it. They don't talk about it as much because, of course, Obama's ratings went up, and certainly attaching Obama to anything sounds good right now, especially looking at Trump. So they're moving away from that. They're calling it the Affordable Care Act more and more because Obama actually isn't such a bad thing anymore. Look, I know I got to catch my air. I am not upset that my technical challenges happen. I expected them, but it's really annoying to be on the screen and not have the full force of my colorful backgrounds, which I worked hard on, and all my little glowy kind of outline that I put on. You know, you're not getting the same effect. But I will say that this is the platform that I'm going to be on in the future, and it's going to take me some time. YouTube is a monster. If you can get the quality up and you can get consistent, there's a lot more opportunity on YouTube. And certainly I'm going to post those links on the other platforms. But I want to summarize what I wanted to talk about today, and I didn't get to do some of the things I wanted to talk about because of the technical challenges. But keep your eye on the prize. Keep your head down. Take a break from social media. This is mostly talking to myself, which I've done today. Take a break. Take a step back. Focus on what you can do for your fellow human being. Focus on the reality of the situation and not get distracted by these back and forth bullshit that they're talking about. And if a policy is certainly important to you, research it. If you're going to research something, you need to go through page 3 of Google, because the first 3 are fucking paid content. But we need to get back to talking about real solutions and get off this Trump train where it's nothing but chaos. Now, if you're a Republican, you're thinking, well, that's the point. We want to get Trump in office, then we can do distraction. We can do, this kind of look over here while we're doing this. I mean, to me, that's not governing. That's stealing from people. That's imposing your ideas without going through the will of the folks that put you there. So we'll see what happens, but it's 5 weeks or whatever till the election, however long it is, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks, whatever the fuck it is. It's too long. It's way too long, but we've got to kind of put our heads down. You've got to be vigilant. You can't just absorb everything you hear, even from me. You have to go and research it. Sometimes you got to watch the video to really see this stuff. There's a lot of video content of Trump and JD Vance, what they're saying. There's a lot of video content of what Kamala Harris stands for. People want to put it out there that they don't know what she stands for. We know what she doesn't stand for, and we certainly can look at the Joe Biden's policies and say, okay, you may not like it, but you do know what she stands for. Stop saying that too, because it's not true. I know I'm talking to deaf ears when I'm giving these reprimands about how you should carry yourself, but it really is this crazy gaslighting behavior that's coming from the GOP. I mean, I called out our local leaders, Lloyd Smucker and Scott Martin, who've been silent. Of course, they're doing things and post-night posts like, oh, I'm fucking seeing these people. I'm like, I sat down with Scott Martin. I have respect for him, but I used to have respect for him. He just said, I don't anymore because he's been quiet. He's been a fucking coward, just like Lloyd Smucker. And they're sitting there allowing this demagogue to lie to us. Of course, Lloyd would rather get a picture taken than actually say what the truth is. And that is Donald Trump there is no there. There's no clothes. The emperor has no clothes. And Lloyd and Scott are okay to ride that train into power and continue to act as if it's normal. Oh, they support our policies. He doesn't support shit. He doesn't support shit about what you do. He takes your money and he likes the power and attention. But you fell for that shit. And this is why, at one point when I held Scott Martin in high esteem, dropped way down. He's hanging out with Lloyd, in my mind, with the bottom dwellers of ideas and creative and independent thinkers. They're not independent thinkers. They may continue to get elected and they may continue to get the votes, but they're not independent. We can predict what they're going to do all the time. It's so fucking easy. They're always most likely going to do whatever their party says, even when it's wrong. And right now their party's controlled by Trump. So my largest frustration for all of this is the ripple effect of the chaos, the turmoil, the rhetoric. It's not only assassination attempts, but it's these state senators and these local congressmen that wrap it up and carry that message with their silence. That pisses me off more than anything. Like, they're fucking silent about this shit. People are like, oh, how did Hitler happen? They were silent. People that knew better were silent. They were silent cowards. And so that's what pisses me off right now when I think of Scott Martin and Lloyd Smucker and all these people that are Republican Congress people that are fucking saying nothing. I don't care if you visited fucking 5 veterans places. Put out a statement saying this is enough. Enough is enough. Make a stand. Your respect might go up a little bit, but this whole train that they're riding is driving me nuts. And I don't understand how people don't call them out on it. Look, I'm not perfect. And I understand that a lot of people aren't going to like the way I'm talking about those two people. But it's so frustrating when people are dying because of their policies and people are getting, if you're a teacher in Springfield, I know there's a lot of teachers that listen to me. If you're a teacher, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you're going through hell right now in Springfield because these cowards are they're talking this way. And you don't have any kind of pushback from the local GOP. I mean, Ryan Ahmet, same fucking thing. All these guys that are just kind of riding the wave. By the way, Pennsylvania is going to be a hot spot. It's going to come down to Pennsylvania. Florida's lost. Rick DeSantis turned it red. So it's going to happen here. And I want to see my local leaders talk about the truth and stop acting as if Donald Trump is God's gift to you. I don't give a fuck about what your religious background is. Talk about the truth. Talk about he has no substance. Talk about how idiotic he is. Talk about how he has no policy stance that you can track down. Talk about the fact that his rhetoric is hurting people. Talk about the fact that you have decided to put your balls between your legs and walk around as if you have none. Kind of squeeze them. Every man knows what I'm talking about. That's what it feels like. They're walking around saying, hey, we're men, we're leaders, but you're not. You're not. And I don't want to disrespect trans people or anybody that's has sexual identity that's different than maybe that's not binary. But I'm suggesting that these two folks are less than men and they're cowards. And that goes for every single GOP person that rides this wave of bullshit that Trump's creating. It's going to get worse. As he loses in the polls, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And those people are going to be more cowardly every day. It's going to be harder for them to backtrack when you're 2 weeks away from the election. Maybe they'll find that's the time to say, oh, we're going to move back. We think this was wrong. But I've heard nothing out of those two people except compliance and Sieg Heils to fucking Donald Trump. And I'm using that language on purpose because it's so disturbing to see folks that talked to, worked with, align with this guy. Because then all the people that are uneducated or don't pay attention are repeating this stuff, friends, family, and you guys that know better, that have access to data, that see the things that are on the inside and know the scheme, don't say anything. And by the way, I wouldn't expect those people to say anything because they were part of the steal in 2020. When we talk about the steal was what Republicans are in court right now. Mark Meadows, chief of staff to the president, the main execution arm of the president, is fighting for his life in different trials in Georgia and I think maybe Arizona, where he was accused of being a part of the scheme to steal the election. Pennsylvania was right in the mix. Your senator, your congressman, Lloyd Smucker, was in the mix of all this shit, suggesting that, hey, we're going to do things. Well, I just want to review. This is the first time we needed a review, Lloyd. Stop fucking throwing that out there that we need a review and we just want to make sure everything's right. We were fine until we had this clown talking about this rhetoric, talking about the steal and how elections are fragile and you can't trust it. And then Democrats are stuffing ballots and all this crazy shit. And you sat there and got a fucking picture in his little limo. I'll never forget that picture because it just was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. When they say, how did it happen? That's going to be a picture they're going to use. Like, here's somebody who professed to be a Christian, came from a very conservative area, came from good background, nice guy, and he sat there and he was complicit in the election of Donald Trump for the second time. Same thing with Scott Martin. Oh, super athlete, smart guy, real independent thinker. There he is right there saying nothing about the demagoguery happening right now. And they're cowards. So today I'm going to wrap because I had a bad day with my tech, but I'm going to leave on this strong point and say, I'm begging you GOP folks, or if you're a Republican that knows better, take a stand. Show history. Maybe you have children. I don't. Like I said, when I'm done, I'm done. But you have kids and you have descendants. Do something for them. Don't be an embarrassment. Don't be that footnote, Lloyd, with that picture of you with Donald Trump saying, hey, how did it happen? How did we get here? And it's going to be your picture saying they just didn't fucking care. They wanted power more. I don't have much more to say, and I don't even know if that's streamed today. So we're just going to roll with that. I'm going to end. I'll get this sorted out, but I am in beta world with my Mac, and I certainly tried some new stuff today. I didn't realize it would totally kill my camera, but we'll get through it. Hope you enjoyed tonight. I know I was a little fired up at the end, but it just, as I start to think about the people that actually could make a difference, that have the power, that were elected to help their constituents, are doing absolutely nothing. And by the way, watch what happens in Pennsylvania when Donald Trump starts talking about the things we have going on here. Lloyd's already made the case that we have to be worried about the border in Pennsylvania, which is fucking wild, right? But we're going to see more rhetoric, and it's going to be targeted at Pennsylvania's. What he did to Springfield, Ohio, he can do to Pennsylvania, and they're not going to stop it. These two people that I just mentioned, along with the other folks that are in the GOP that I didn't mention, are complicit by not standing up to this man. And they're going to cause pain and suffering, and that's by design. I'm not suggesting Lloyd or Scott wants pain and suffering. I don't think so, and I think they're good people. Despite the fact that they're cowards, they're good people. They're just caught up in a web. They want to stick to power. They don't want to fuck with their base. But man, it would be a strong move to say, hey, you know what? I denounce this language. I denounce Donald Trump. Enough of this demagoguery. Can't even say it because I'm so fired up. Let's get back to real principles. I don't even care if they start fucking throwing Ronald Reagan in, which was a complete asshole too. But we want to go back to Reagan, GOP, fine. But this is untenable, and it's going to reflect on you, and you may continue to get elected for the rest of your life and never have to pay the consequences, but your future generations will, by the embarrassing footnote you're going to be of why it happened. There's going to be a picture of you and your fucking ilk and saying this is why it happened, because people that had the voice didn't speak up. That's all I got. I don't have any fucking outro today, so we're just going to end it. If I am even streaming, I know I recorded it, so I'm able to cast this thing at least on a podcast. But I know it's fiery, but hopefully you enjoyed it.